Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually have some pretty crazy news going on over here, where we actually are now finally seeing a PlayStation studio shutting down. Now, in case you guys have been kind of following up the gaming drama, we've actually been seeing a lot of really big, industries and players and people having to go and basically remanage and reorganize their companies. Some companies have actually had some really big waves of layoffs, and everything has been kind of going a bit more on the rockier side. Although, funny enough, PlayStation's actually been kind of laid back when it comes to this, especially in comparison, say, to Xbox, but we are now finally starting to see a little bit of a hit coming out over here when it comes to some PlayStation Studios, and everything else. So, potentially some kind of bad news. I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to talk about the story. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down below. As well, we're going to be celebrating our 9th year of being a Twitch partner, so if you guys are bored or get really drunk later on throughout today, so make sure you guys are following up the Twitch stream or the Twitter while I'll tweet out when I'm live, and of course, subscribe if you guys are new for all the good old gaming news, and let's dive into the video itself. So as I mentioned, we've been kind of seeing a little bit of a roughness when it comes to the economy. I'm sure you guys have seen, whether it comes to things such as like video game and tech places like Apple, Google, or Microsoft laying off folks, or as well, some games have just been kind of, flustering. We saw a lot of really big drama too when it came to even Microsoft, 343 had a lot of issues too as well, and just things have been a little bit on the sketchier side. Although, as I mentioned, PlayStation has mostly been weathering through the storm, kind of until now. So this one's actually been working apparently with Sony and Sony Pictures and everything else, and this is a little bit on the sadder side. So as we mentioned before, like a few months ago, we had a really big Microsoft layoff where there was thousands of people that were laid off, and surprisingly, the Xbox division was actually hit really hard. A lot of folks out there lost their jobs, Xbox in general losing employees, and it's kind of weird because Xbox at the time was boasting that it was doing very well, although maybe they saw the looming recession and basically consumer spending going down as time goes on, and they decided to go say, well, let's go and maybe get ahead of the curve and try to lay off some folks. But basically, Halo was not doing too well. There was a lot of folks that were laid off too on top of that, and well, it wasn't too good. Now, we also did go and cover the news that Deep Silver as well is now apparently doing some restructuring with some layoffs also coming. Now, if you guys ever work for proper jobs and companies, that's never a good sign to hear that there's layoffs coming or restructuring, the big restructuring where it's always a scary one, because even if they say it's going to be not a big deal, typically, when you have auditors or big higher ups trying to go and cut costs, make the company more profitable, typically that's where you go and sit there and be like, well, we have an extra 500 employees, we may want to let a few go, maybe we'll do 250 now, 250 later, save some money, help out our shareholders, and try our best to keep all of our stuff being as profitable as possible. But this one's actually been kind of a bigger one over here, where Opus actually is shutting down their own individual studio, where Sony is shutting down the Concrete Genie studio, Opus. So the studio is working on a collaboration as well with Sony Pictures Animation too on top of it. So this actually is a Sony studio, and I want to kind of give you guys some more details and some community feedback on it too as well, where basically Sony Studios Opus has announced that it will now be closing down. In a tweet that was posted on Friday, the California-based studio wrote, "Dear friends, our Pixel Opus adventure has come to an end." It's just just that alone, that just wording by itself is very sad. As we look to new futures, we want to say a heartfelt thank you to the millions of passionate players who have supported us and our mission to make beautiful, imaginative games with heart. We are so grateful. This sounds sad. Very sad. The studio was founded in 2014 and launched its first game, Entwined, later that year. The game was announced as a surprise during Sony's E3 conference. It was made available as of the same exact day. So this was also followed up by painting-based adventure game Concrete Genie in 2019, which I actually think I heard really good things about myself back in the day, which was actually nominated for numerous awards, including 2 BAFTA Game Awards. It was announced in June 2021 that Pixel Opus's third game was going to be a PlayStation 5 title, developed now in collaboration, this is why it's a little bit more bigger, with Sony Pictures Animation, and it's not clear as of right this second if the project is even still active. So if you guys kind of go through some of the games itself over here, we can do a little bit of Pixel Opus, you guys can kind of see, you guys maybe even recognize some of these different types of trailers, where it's kind of like the Life is Strange-y type style, narrative, kind of cutesy, I don't know the best way to put it, it kind of reminds me a lot of, let's say, Life is Strange, maybe even a little bit of Kena, that type of style game too as well, where it's more focused on, stuff. I remember specifically seeing this trailer, and I was like, yeah, this actually looks like a game I maybe would want to go check out. Maybe not, because, maybe not be my style, but you guys can definitely go and see on this one. for Concrete Genie, where it kind of definitely focuses a lot more on the animations and the visual effects, and basically trying their best to go make the game seem a little bit more special and unique. And this was actually, I think, a figurehead underneath the PlayStation Studios. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know they have a very, very strong connection with PlayStation as a whole. But I remember literally seeing this trailer, if you guys have seen some of the stuff, because it kind of stood out to me just on the difference of how the game is, and the art style and aesthetic and everything else. Which, once again, you guys can see there's a really, really big lifeblood of animation and also story design, like basically world lore design. And this is why, once again, them working with a Sony Animation Pictures would probably be a huge game. If you look at a game like Akina, or even just other various actual animated movies such as Spider-Man, it's very intriguing to go and see how well Sony has done for all these games. So, basically for this one, this was announced as well, like I said, that they'll be doing a collaboration with Sony Pictures. Speaking on the studio's closure, Pixel Opus' senior environmental artist, which you guys can probably tell is a god at this one, Bob Archibald, tweeted, "I like to think that with Concrete Genie, we made the world an ever so slightly better place, and not too many games these days have a chance to try and do that. I will always be grateful for my time building imaginative worlds with this incredible team." And like you guys just saw in the little trailer over here, the world does look very, very beautiful. So as you guys can see, here's the initial tweet, which got a lot of reception, a lot of love as well. So in a statement from IGN, Sony said, "PlayStation Studios regularly evaluates its portfolio and the status of studio projects to ensure they meet the organization's short and long-term strategic objectives. As of the post recent review process, has been decided that Pixel Opus will close on June 2nd. Now, I can also understand the perspective of Sony. There's always that small chance that maybe the studio just wasn't making progress, maybe they were overwhelmed, maybe they didn't have the funding, or maybe they just didn't have enough sales to actually go and justify them to kind of stay there in the first place. There could be a lot of folks just didn't understand that. Now, we've also had some other folks too as well. Like we even saw someone like Mark. Mark's like, "I was only with Pixel Opus since January. It's been some of the most creatively fulfilling work in my career. The talent at this studio really blew me away, and I'm grieving right now at the loss of a great team and a great project. I hope we all land on our feet, preferably together." Now, this is one bigger one too, because it doesn't seem like Sony themselves are going to try to pick up the company, as in, like, you can try to maybe just, like, rework these same, like, talented people and art designers or developers or whatever into just the other PlayStation ops, mainly because he says, "I hope we land on our feet, preferably together." I'm just assuming, I mean, maybe Sony threw him a bone and they offer them some other jobs and different projects, or as well, if you did work at one other Sony studio, I'm sure that probably would help out a decent bit when it comes to other applications, like to a Bungie or other different types of companies as well. But it's a little bit scary too, because some folks are kind of like calling out the big heat. Where they're like, "Hey man, like what's going on with this one? Like we're kind of seeing stuff on this one. Like, hey, like off Twitter for the day, and I find out Pixel Opus is closing. RPS making record profits." Basically kind of trying to go, and we're seeing some community reception, calling them out and being like, "Hey, Sony, you're doing fantastic. You're making so much money. You have like these huge big articles where you're selling the most consoles. You're living the market share. You might even have like a little bit of a sweat off your brow with Xbox not closing through the Activision deal." And it's also kind of sad too, because that does seem like it might be like another Japanese studio. If you guys remember, another prior Japanese studio was also dissolved when it came to the Sony vibe earlier on this year. So it's a little bit scary, or actually I guess more so last year, but it kind of goes to show that they don't necessarily want to focus on the Japanese market, which a lot of folks are very, very upset on, and I can always kind of agree on that too as well. So it's saying like PlayStation Studio closes studio with less than 15 people, it's a little bit more than that, but yeah, and then also they've also seen as Xbox worship accounts jumping like crazy to point out how bad it is, and it's kind of funny too because people are usually doing the usual and typical back and forth where they're like, "Hey man, PlayStation like shuts down maybe an unprofitable studio, or maybe it's just more of like a passion project, venture project, or whatever it might be, and then Xbox is winning." But once again, there's always like the usual drama, or we kind of showed you guys where Microsoft had thousands upon thousands of people laid off, let alone in other things in the gaming industry. Now, they'll kind of want this down. I don't like the idea of like a console war back and forth between PlayStation and Xbox when it comes to people's jobs and careers. I just hope that anyone who had to work on these different projects, whether it might be Halo, whether it might be, I don't know, anything else in between, such as even Pixel Opus, I just hope they have a chance to go find a proper job and be able to go keep on creating the things they want to. I know the job market's been kind of weird and strange, a little bit more tight, but as well, I've also known that just people are kind of struggling right now. So when it comes to video games, we want games. We want unique games. We want good IPs. We want something special. But at the end of the day, not every single game is going to be profitable. Not every game studio is going to make a lot of money. And, well, it kind of makes me sad because these people are real people who lost their jobs and maybe even lost a little bit of their passion to when it comes to making games or developing games or just doing really cool art design, especially if you're doing something cool with Sony Productions. Now, maybe they'll get lucky. Maybe some of those art designers might get picked up by the actual studio itself from Sony, but we don't know as of right now, and it doesn't seem so good. So major good luck to everyone out there who was affected by this layoff. It's not a fun thing to go report on. And as well, I hope all of you guys are having a fantastic day. If you guys are bored, we are going to be doing a little bit of a Twitch stream, like for my 9th year partner anniversary. If you guys are bored, follow up the Twitch or the Twitter down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. Give me your thoughts and comments down below. Would always love to go and hear them. And of course, as well, just appreciate you guys all so much for watching in the first place.